Well, hello my friends. El Furtado here, the Rebel Turner. And, well, today is going to be interesting, to say the least. I've heard people say, what is the ultimate compliment? And they always say the ultimate compliment is when somebody takes your turning and duplicates it or replicates it. That is an awesome compliment. But I think I got that one beat. What is the ultimate compliment? Well, a friend purchased one of my droop oval bowls from me, and with his purchase, he thanked me how grateful he was, and he posts videos on YouTube, so go check him out, and I will disclose the name in a little bit. I've been coming to this shed for a little while, at least 2 or 3 times that I meant to bring this piece out here. Now, why am I holding this piece? I've done so many. Because my friend, a subscriber, the ultimate compliment, Steve Trott, bought one of these droop oval bowls from me, and he studied it. Not only did he see my videos, but he studied how I went about it, approached it. And after he purchased my droop oval bowl, which was actually the firewood starter, the fire starter, what's that called? Hot pine. Droop over. He created this piece and he sent it to me as a gift with a thank you Al and Steve Trott. Now if you go to his channel, which I urge you to do so, you will see that I would not be able to do something as nearly as nice as this, in my opinion. And I believe that he said this was cherry. Steve, thank you very, very much. It's a wonderful gift, and I would be more than proud if I did something as nice as you did with this. Thank you for the ultimate of compliments. You rock. Now, I'm going to do something as to why I am partial to this type of turning, and I'm going to add one additional flair to the piece. So, stick around, let's have some fun. I have a nice piece of wood ready to go on the lathe right here. And I'm going to say it's somewhat of a mystery wood. But what it is a fascinating piece of wood. When I'm doing those type of turnings, the thing that I'm looking for the most is how uneven the piece of wood that I'm starting off with, both top and bottom. The more uneven it is away from circle, the more of effect you're going to get with the finished results. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for pieces that are not very round. So when you're selecting the wood for something like this, select it somewhat wisely. The length versus width. This one is actually a little bit taller than what I need it to be. But I'm not going to trim it down, I will just finalize it to where it should be. But whatever the widest point is of your piece, in this case, I got 8 inches roughly. The height should be about the same. And I have 10. So when all said and done, this should end up to be like an 8 by 8 piece. And that will proportion it off the piece fairly well. And it doesn't have to be exact the 8 inches. You can be 9 tall, so it's a little bit taller. You can be a little bit under, but roughly. So take that likely about the same proportion. Now on this piece, I'm going to keep this as the top because I like what's going on over here. I like these knots, I like this knot, and all of this will play a little bit of effect of what I see on the outside mushroom style of this. A lot of checking on this. Checking, I like checking. I will maybe add some CA just so it doesn't blow away a little bit later on a turning. But a lot of that is going to go away. There's going to be just some fine hairline cracking in here, like I said. And I might fill them up with CA, depending on what I see, and play with those as part of the character. This type of turning, in my case, requires it to be flipped over basically 3 times. I will put it between centers, start doming this off, create a tenon over here, which is the top. It will create a tenon. Flip it back, put it on my chuck, on the tenon, and finalize some of the shape, start creating the foot and the undermining, and going from there, create another tenon on the bottom, on the foot part of it. So, tenon number 2, take it, flip it over, finalize it, and hollow up the inside. Yes, at the very end, there will be just a finishing off of the bottom foot. So it's actually 4 times that this gets moved around on the lift. It's just so let's get I try balancing it off as well as I can between the shortest points being fairly equal and the longest points being fairly equal. And that's the word is fairly, which means it's not 100%. It's close, just like your length versus your width. You should get close to the same proportion, but not necessarily the exact same proportion. The wood is unknown. I've turned quite a few pieces out of this, quite a few, but I don't know what it is. Very dry. It's been out there in my possession for probably over a year, but it's been exposed to the elements. So it stays outside, and I let Mother Nature take its course on what it wants to produce. This tearaway here actually will add to the final piece. as well. It will give me some maybe ribbing going through here, some spiky stuff that you cannot create on its own. So any unevenness that you have going through the piece will add to the piece. The turning, when I start cupping this over, will start about 1/3 of the whole length. Even if it's only, if you already have an 8x8, still about 1/3 of that overall length will be cupped over and dumped. The center of this is very, very punky. As you can see, I can bury my live center way inside of this. A little more than what I want to. But anyway, let's get started. I want to emphasize, even though I don't go out and make it a point of showing you that I put safety gear on, but safety, I'm going to tell you, is always my priority. Speed something like this, I would not dare turn this right off the bat over 600 RPM. But I will see exactly what speed I can get and maintain a safe turning speed. Right off the bat, that's 520 RPM. I'm gonna go in there and sneak it. I know I got a lot of jags in there, in and out, and I see my shadow is right about here before it starts making contact. Not over here, so I'm not going to forget that those edges are there. Approach them slow, sneak it in slow. Creating my tenon, my first tenon, cleaning up the bottom a little bit. Now this is very funky stuff over here. Cuts are getting pretty clean around here. A little rough way down at the bottom over here because it's the hit and miss and I'm still getting a certain amount of bounce. But what I'm getting right through here, it's very, very acceptable. At this point, I look at it and say, okay, what's going on with this edge? That's my finished edge of what the piece looks like. It would come all the way down here, catch this, go way up here and probably lose this piece right here. Catch this. Okay, I would be losing this. Come down and go down here. So I want to emphasize still this area a little bit more, where this is going to droop down a little bit further, so I am not going to lose this notch here. I'm not going to lose this knot that's going through here, and it's going to affect still a little bit further down on these two sides. This all looks good going through here. It's this area right here. So focus on that and get it so when I turn it, it will show, it might show that up, but it will show these 2 points coming down a little bit further. And they will, I think, enhance this area as well. Let's see where we got. So right now, when I hollow up the bottom, it will come. It will give me this little design going through here. This will still stay in play a little bit. This will be just an somewhat of an inclusion on the top, but not necessarily hollowed through, depending on how far I cut them out on this. But this will play. Some of you might be having a hard time as to how I know that's how it's going to play. The cut is already established. This cut is almost like a drawing of the profile. Then coming from underneath, depending how thin I go, it will follow up just below anything that's cut here, as long as I do not make any cut that would affect me like this up here. My lowest point of cut when I start creating the foot will be somewhere right around this point. Can you see that? The lowest point will be my entry point going in to make the foot, and everything from here up is undermined. So as the blade starts going in, it starts following up these contours automatically. That you are not designing the automatic. If you follow the one rule, which is not to take away anything from out here, where you already have a cut that's established from the top, then therefore you will end up with all this jaggedness. And whether if it's bark, whether if it's the wood character like what you're seeing on this particular case, it all works the same with the same idea. Now, one thing that I'm a little iffy about is how punky this is in the middle. Very, very punky. I mean, it's soft. It's not good. It's not what I look for in a piece. But I can stabilize that a little bit with CA glue. both for the flipping over and my final cuts. So, and I did talk about possibly filling in a couple of these checks. And these are the checks that I talked about. And do something with this punky wood over here, which adds character to the piece when all said and done, if you maintain it. If I decide that I want to maintain the mouth going into that area and not all the way out here. It might be on the outside, but also I have to rely on this being a tenon for quite a bit of turning. So I want to make sure that it's got a little bit of strength on the tenon itself. Don't get it on your life center. When I use CA heavy like this, then it starts steaming up or smoking. I get out of the shop a little bit. Any areas that you want to maintain. You can saturate it. And this, actually, I'm going to show you what this design is going to look like with the wetness from the CA. In case the actual cuts that I've already established don't show up to it. I mean, I do have some bleeding that will go over, so therefore, you know, this is not 100% true, but it's fairly close to what the bottom of this piece will look like. And it will look like this dark area that you see going through it. Is it the most fascinating piece I've done of these? No. The beauty with these things is that every one of them will be unique in its own way because of how unevenness. If you start with something round, they're all going to be somewhat uniform to that extent of it being that round shape, and the mushroom will look pretty much even though you can offset it and make it one side longer than the other, but that edge, bottom edge, will be fairly uniform. When you get these jag-outs and concaves and all that, that's when you start adding all kinds of intricate design to the piece. So for now, I'm going to leave this alone, and I'm going to start working a little bit to balance this piece off by taking some of this, rounding it off, and maybe start going up underneath, sneaking up a little bit from this end before flipping it over, and already start showing off what some of this is going to look like. Right now it's running a little bit truer, so I'm going to speed it up slightly, but not that much. Be back in a couple of minutes. Give this, even though CA dries super fast, but give it a minute. Okay, so you can see that I'm already fairly close to the bottom of this. I might take off a little bit of this area over here. I might, because we'll just shorten this droop over a little bit over here, which is kind of rough on the cut anyway. And this piece right here is about halfway down, and it should be about a third down, which would mean that it would only be up here a little bit. But either way, I'm not going to commit to that until I'm ready to commit to it. So this will be the point that I will be making the stem or the foot for it. We'll be starting over here, then I will finalize this and see what I want. By going straight in like this, you establish more or less where you need to be. But you can see how far off I'm here. But I'm not that far off from this. So this has already been cut from the top. So roughly that's where I can end. Even if I decide I want to sneak it up a little bit here, it's still, I'm fairly close to that area. And this one as well. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to go a little bit further up over here, and I will lose just this little bit of jaggedness that's going through here that really doesn't add much to the piece at all. I will still end up with a jag going through here and following up all like this. And then we'll put the piece a little bit more in proportion. using the corner of the square cutter, carbide cutter, to go in and start undermining. But just using it like a pointer tool. Now the reason why I say that it should be equal proportion, you could see that if I kept this, let's assume that this is already my bottom, as a hole, this would be a little bit too top. It would make it more like a vase than it would a bowl of some sort. So you either have to consider shortening this up, the base of it, so it stands a little bit close to your tabletop, or make it deep enough where it is a decorative vase of some sort of this, with this style. So because we think and we always looking for other possibilities, this could very well be a possibility. The only thing is, if it was going to be a base, I would keep this bulk going through here and just undermine this all the way down and just have this lace somewhat come down, and I would hollow up the inside and make it into a vase. I mean, and it could be tapered or with a wide foot. Now, tapering it would be a problem because it could very well topple over. The weight, if you put any decorative pieces on it, so you would need to maintain a wide base like this. Or, like I said, we could continue and go in the direction we go. Now, you know, these are the drawbacks that you encounter when you're doing turning, is you get areas that are literally funky like this. I mean, I'm pushing this in with my finger, and I can pull it off with my finger. So I need to establish this a little bit deeper and see what's going to happen and stabilize my cut over here, then finalize that cut. Also clean it. So going there, in this area right here of my final cuts. This one has quite a bit of a void, a lot of voids in here. So that would mean that I would have to reshape this whole bottom. Or I can fill it with sawdust or epoxy or anything else that I desire that would suit me. But this will allow me to get some cuts in here that will clean up. If you got some cracks that are a little bit too wide for your level of comfort, stuff it up with sawdust. Back it up, sawdust first. Then put some CA in there, and then top it off with sawdust again and rub it. And one last time, some more CA. Anything that you don't feel comfortable with, they will still show up as cracks. Now, this area right here is going to play something funky that I am not so sure that I actually care for what is showing up. So I'm also going to treat this. So put a little CA first. Stuff it. Don't bother shaking it all off. Put some CA and saturate that sawdust. Once you get it saturated, and you toss some more sawdust, back it in. If it's a big area, like this, back it in good. Okay, let that dry up for a minute and then do it one more time. And this will still play an interesting design with the piece. I got a hairline crack that goes all the way in here. And I'm not going to fill it, but I want to CA it. Now, in no means is this to camouflage the piece. This is strictly to add something different than what it was shown. You might not agree with this method, but I think it's a method that's worthy visiting every once in a while, because you can take a piece that you could salvage into a very beautiful piece with an interesting flair. Now, I want to bring something up with all of this. You already see that I've already got this established, but don't be set in your mind that, well, I already did this bottom of the bowl, so therefore I'm all done. You're far from it. Because this is going to come all the way up here. You're going to be seeing quite a bit of this bowl unless you modify that. So most likely I'll end up turning this and making this stem much longer and duplicate this is somewhere up here. Somewhere up here. So all of this is going to be reshaped once I start establishing the final look of this. This is pretty close to where it's going to end up, here and here. So that's not going to modify, but this is going to open up all the way pretty much up here. All the way up here, like this. Okay, so once that's done, then that's when I finalize this belly of the piece. But the foot, at this point, it's pretty much set because I can't bring it up any further. So the height will be somewhere, this will be parted out about here, so this will end up being 8 by 9, roughly, on this particular piece. So let me scrape this off, get some of the CA out of here, and clean it up. Time for me to flip this over and work from this side. Okay, gonna go in here and start going back undermining this to get some of these shapes coming through. Now, as you can see, there's definitely a lot of decay, a lot of the deterioration on this piece of wood. Time to go in there with some Yorkshire grit. So there will be still plenty of sandpaper marks on this, but the point of this is to show you what you can get out of these odd pieces of wood. Now, because this wood is very punky anyway, the sanding, you could literally take a really, really long time to get this refined, and once all said and done, you'd probably still see spots that would be crevices or indents, and you would still not be happy with it. So therefore, if the piece has gotten, or if Mother Nature put her hands on it a little bit more than what you would normally like, then don't spend a lot of time trying to undo what Mother Nature did. Do it until you feel that it's acceptable for what it has to offer. Now, if you also want a gloss, or a fairly good gloss on it, you can, but not with a rub finish. And when you got pieces like this with jagged edges, you really can't get a good rub because it's impossible for you to go in there and buff this with all these jagged edges. So you have to take that into account as well. Now a lot of times I will do the buff wheel on it a little bit, and that will help these outside edges a little bit. But you know, when you look at this, you're not going to say, oh my god, he only sanded it to 280 grit. You're going to look at it and say, oh my god, what a pretty piece it is. Not camouflaged in any way from its natural beauty. That's really how I see things. I know, it's an L thing. And what do you expect? Look at this line. It is beautiful. And that's a check mark filled up with sawdust. Now, I think I want to finish this one up slightly different because I can't get in there. I'm going to give it a, let me see what I'm going to give it. A semi-gloss lacquer. Now this is a brushing, but I'm going to apply it with a paper towel. Now, if you know lacquer dries up fairly quick, so it doesn't give you a lot of time to work with it. And sometimes pieces don't necessarily want that super high gloss or super finish. Sometimes they just don't want that. But again, you know, I can be saying that, and you could be nodding your head or shaking your head to agreement or disagreement. Okay. I've sanded this down with some fine steel wool. Sanding it down with fine steel wool. Then I'll do a wipe down with a little bit of lacquer thinner to really finalize this piece right now. Lacquer thinner, just a little bit, just to wipe down any residue, and that gives me a pretty uniform finish on the piece. It's time to get it off the lathe, take off the bottom, and at the end, with it off the lathe, I will apply one more coat of lacquer on this. Nice even coat of lacquer, and fairly thin. It's time to remove the foot and finish the bottom. Probably could do the lid in the event that I needed to turn it together with this to get the correct profile. And the lid, like everything else, it's a flat piece of wood. Just gonna quickly find the center more or less on this, because the piece is big enough to give me what I want. What I'm going to do is start drawing this up, create a little bit of a tenon here so I can flip it over, finish it up, and then get it back in place with all the measurements, and just refine that little spot over there, and maybe put a finial on this. 1300 RPM. When it's a small piece, you don't need too deep of a tenon. Just enough to grab your work. I will refine the lid on the piece with friction fit. Finish off my lid, basically. I want the profile to be pretty good with the piece, so by doing this, I can get to the same profile that's already on the bowl to some extent. Going to make a little finial, and the finial is lacewood. Nothing too fancy, just something that's going to fit the top and give me a nice profile. To work this finial backwards. Basically, I'm going to make the stem at the tool rest and work my way outwards towards until the point that it comes off the lathe. See if that's already round. Okay, but I got this little chewed up area here, so I'm going to go down. That's already round, but I'll eliminate that little bit. That's about as long as I'm going to make it. It's a little stem to fit in. part is right there. Start working the shape. Pull in. To make the last part of it a little smaller until it comes up a little. Here's the fit. Well, I was hoping to get a little bit thinner than that. Well, there we go. I'm not going to say it was an easy turn. These are actually fairly time-consuming and not the newcomer project. Although my friend Steve, I don't think he's got all that much experience in turning and did an awesome job on what he sent me. And you know something? All my talk and all my rambling of making it with all these jags, this is an amazing piece. And you know, Steve did an awesome job undermining it. Oops. You know, this requires you to go much deeper inside when you got these long wings. I mean, it's a long return. With something round, it's a little easier. You don't have to go quite as deep on the return, on the undermining. And they both give you a nice look. And again, this was done not to outdo or anything of that sort. This was done because I love doing these. I love the droop overs that I get. You can see that the profile of the lid, which is what I was shooting for, it's following up the same profile that's already on the piece. I would not put up a flat lid all of a sudden, or something that would hump up and to do something completely different. So you have to think about, when you're doing that sort of stuff, the finial, which is lace wood, it works out pretty good. Nothing really fancy on it. It's just a piece to grab and not too fragile where it's going to break on me. It's for you to be able to do something and put this in a bathroom with cotton balls, or put some cotton in there and put a little bit of jewelry in it. Give it as a gift for Christmas to somebody who enjoys, who loves natural wood, and I think it's amazing. And I believe this wood is also wild cherry. After I started and thinking about it and what I've turned out of it, it's the tree that came down during a mini storm when I was building the office, my company office, towards the end. So it was definitely wood that I picked up out of there, and from the beginning it had been punky in the center, even when it was just cut out. That's why the trees fell down all over the place over there, was because there was a lot of decay in the center of the tree already. So this came down without a problem during a mild wind. So I happened to pass by and they were cutting them down, you know, what was falling over and cleaning up the side of the road. So it's like, hey, I'll take a few of those pieces. So I selected what was gnarly and stuff of that sort. So that's what I grabbed. And again, I think it's cherry. Beautiful, beautiful color. And most of them that I've turned have turned to be this color. So it's not the lacquer that did it. It's just the color of the wood as soon as you wet it down and you put a nice finish to it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week, I hope. Hey, next week is actually Thanksgiving. So you have yourself a happy Thanksgiving and spend some quality time with your family and your loved ones. We'll see you after Thanksgiving. Next big one is Christmas. Who knows, I might do a little bit of Christmas turning for some of you that might be interested in seeing how I do my angels or snowman and that sort of stuff. See you again. Take care.